my experience in Cullman County is there's a fair amount of issues between married couples,
Yes, there is.
and that's being maybe conservative, okay? And so, all of us who are married, we have our moments with our spouses.
Mhm.
Is that something you work with in your practice? Is that something that you can offer some thoughts to people in Cullman County to consider and work with?
I do work with people in marriage counseling. One of the things that the biggest issue in marital issues that I have found is communication. And people think that sounds very basic, and they're like, oh, yeah, I've read articles on that. Communication's always an issue. People are always struggling with communication. But really, ineffective communication is a key thing. And unrealistic expectations of each other that you do not voice to each other, and then expect each other to read each other's mind, you know, is really setting both of you up for a disaster. So some of the things I do is we work on better communication. We work on clarifying what someone says. If I say to my husband, I think you should do this, he may hear that a different way because males hear from a male perspective and females hear from a female perspective. And so a good way to not have a miscommunication is for him to repeat back to me, now help me understand. I think I heard you say, and he'll repeat it, and if that wasn't what I said, it gives me that opportunity to say, no, this is what I meant, and you clarify. And then there's no resentment, no holding a grudge or building this thing up, or it blows up later on in a big disagreement.
Well, it sounds like for free you just fixed 90-some% of most people's marital problems, if they could follow that direction. But it's easier said than done.
It is.
So let's decide one or both parties in a relationship, we need professional help. How would that look when they come into your office? What is the parameters, and what do they need to know about making the step to come in and getting professional assistance if they need it?
Well, usually what I do when they come in is I start talking to them about history. How long have you been married? What are the issues that have been on? The historical time frame of the relationship, the things marriages have been through. Because, if we've lived life, we've been through stuff together as a married couple. And then, we look at that and we go through that and we identify, what are some key things you need to see change in. And I give both the opportunity to do that. I do not allow couples to bash each other or attack each other in marriage counseling. This is a zone where we should be free to speak and respectfully to each other. No laying on of hands or no foul language, no demeaning. This is a friendly, open zone where we're here to heal. And so we start with that, and with each person the issues are going to be different. So you identify what's going on, what change is needed, because everybody's change will be different. And his change may be different than hers. Where's the middle ground with both of these? If we had to choose one of these that's the most key, let's go with that, and we're going to put a pause on these other two. Because often when we hit that first key one, when it starts to improve, the other things start to improve.
So what you're looking for is really the priorities.
Mm-hmm.
After you talk with a couple and understand what's going on, you look for the big ones, so to speak, and help
Mm-hmm.
them work through that.
Yeah.
And do you feel like if they learn some kind of mechanism in that they can just apply to whatever else is next?
Yes, and where's the fire burning the hottest?
I got you. This may be a little bit of an odd question, but to me, there's the intellectual, emotional dynamic in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also how should I say this, a chemistry, sexual dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And at least in my experience, sometimes that sexual chemistry dynamic is at the root of the underlying cause of the problem. Do you ever get into that aspect of it, or is that not really part of marriage
I
counseling?
do get into that aspect of it. Probably the top things that people come in to marriage counseling for that they're arguing about is usually it's usually money, kids, the parenting, and it's intimacy issues. The lack of, intimacy. Sometimes after time, when things get complacent and they get in ruts in their marriage, and how do we get a spark started back?
Gotcha. So you'll help them all the way through any of those
Yes,
if
I
they're
will.
willing. Great. You've given a lot of really great advice on folks, but if you could pick one thing out of your many years in this field and working with people who are married, in general, could you offer one lasting piece of advice for them if they're having problems generally in their relationship?
Show love and respect.